Right, here we go. We're back. So I'm going to start on the sky now again and see if we can complete the sky at this step here. So we have some blues here. So there's that ultramarine blue I was using for the water. Here's a crepage I was using earlier. Probably not going to use those much now. But I think I'm going to go with this one and maybe some of these here. All right, so this is a very light blue, kind of that cerulean blue color. And we can start just pushing that into the sky here towards the bottom. Here, covering it up, get that texture covered up. Kind of want a smoother look here in the sky. So this will really help with that as we start covering that up. You can see how the difference there in the texture now, and then there is some clouds here. I don't know yet if I'm going to put them in. I think right now I'm just going to put it all as blue. Okay. We'll just use this blue all the way up here, really cover it up. I want a nice smooth look like that. I think this might be a Mungio or a neopastel. Just a really nice light cerulean blue color. Good sky color. All right, let's go down here right to the edge there where it meets the horizon. Cover up that gray where I came out a little bit too far on that rock there, so I'm trying to cover that up. And making sure the water is straight across. It doesn't have a wave to it. I want it nice and flat. Nice smoothness to it. Yep, nice. And then I'm going to bring in a cream color for the very bottom of this here. I'll bring that here in a second. I'm just going to finish off with this. Right, now I have this light gray here that's still showing from that the light gray crepage, so I'm going to keep that there. I'm going to go around it. Now we have that guardhouse light lookout house here. I'm just going to do it all sky for right now. We're going to do that as a final step probably. Have to use a neopastel or sennelier to get that in because I'll be laying that on top. Okay, it's a good color, and we'll push that up into this. Right now I want a little bit more on it. Right, there's still some spots here that are showing. Kind of move that pastel, cover up that area. And when in doubt, just keep adding more and more color to it. Okay, so let's go to a different blue. Let's try this one here. Feels like a neopastel. Sorry, when I take the papers off, I don't exactly know. I just know by touch now what it feels like. And we'll just add a darker blue towards the top of this paper. You can see now I'm starting to get a smoother look here with the sky. And I can use my fingers to kind of smooth it out a little bit. If I press in too much, I'll start actually taking the oil pastel off the paper on the smoothness of this. So I learned to just kind of fill it in. Sometimes I go into circular marks to kind of fill it in. All right. And down here, I want to use a cream color. So I'm going to go with this crema. This is a neopastel cream. It's one of my favorite neopastels. It's like this light, really cream butter kind of color looking. It looks like butter. I like to use it here at the horizon to really lighten that up. And it's a really soft stick too. It's very soft, so it's very creamy. I like it for certain applications, like right at the horizon, right where the water meets the sky. You can kind of just put it in there and smooth it across. And it's neopastel, so it's very creamy. It has a creamy consistency to it. And it's good for a lot of uses. In this application with a sky like this, where I'm having a dark blue coming down to a lighter blue, I kind of use it for that. I also use it for highlights too. It's a very good highlight color for light. And I like it for certain skies like this one here. All right, this it's called crema. Very soft, very smooth and creamy feeling to it. Got a tint of yellow into it, but it's not turning things green when you add the blue and the, typically a blue and a yellow will make it green, but it doesn't do that. There's enough white in there to control that part of it. All right. Come back in with some of this again. Oop, made it a little dark there. I don't want to do that. Just kind of smooth that out with my finger. There we go. And sometimes I get a little bit of that gray kind of smudges in there, kind of makes things dirty, and then I'll just take that same cream and kind of smooth over that part so it doesn't look dirty. You kind of get these little crumbs that kind of roll up with this sometimes with the oil pastel. You just have to smooth those out. If you accidentally drag some of that brown into it, you just kind of go over again with it and just smooth it out. as the sky, horizon comes down here, if we have a deeper blue sky, and then it just kind of lightens up as you get close to the horizon there. So that where it hits the sea level there, it's really a light color. Okay, my water's still. Let me make sure. I think it looks okay. I might come and shave that down apart a little bit right here. Just want to make sure it's flat. Okay, it's important that doesn't lean to one side. So you can kind of mess around with that with your finger here, just kind of find where it'll lay flat. All right, I am back. It's actually the next day. I took a break yesterday and then just decided to pick it up again today. So I haven't worked on it since the last break, but so this is the next day, and I'm looking at one thing here, and I've noticed that my water line is kind of creeping up on this right side. It's kind of starting to go up here. So I'm going to fix that right now by just using this creme color and try to shave off this one side here a little bit, to try to flatten that out a little bit more. Just kind of soften that edge, and hopefully I can just shave that down a little bit more. And we'll add a little bit more of this cream. Really like this this particular color from Neopastel. Very useful in a lot of ways. It's very soft too, so it's easy to blend and work with. Yeah, it looks like it's kind of leaning up here. Having fresh eyes the next day really helps. Sometimes when you're working on something for a long time, you don't see things until you really take a break from it, and you come back like the next day or a few hours later and then look at it, and you got some fixing to do. And let's see, let's bring up this side a little bit more. I just want to get that water line just as level as I can make it there. So that's a little better, I think. Seems a little flatter to me. All right, and then kind of continue on this side as well. See if I can continue that line over there. All right, maybe shave it down a little right there. All right, a little bit more creme. And then we'll just blend that out. And then I'm going to finish the smoothness of the sky. It's a little bit too uneven, and I want to get a nice smooth finish there on that blue. All right, so you can use this creme for the sky as it meets the horizon, to lighten it up, to transition from a blue to a warmer color. But up here, I just need to add more of this, just to fill in the gaps, make it a smoother look. And we'll use some of this here to also help with that. All right, so here's going to be where the little guardhouse situation is going to be, but I'm going to kind of leave that area alone. I don't want too much oil pastel on that section, otherwise it'll be too hard to get something on top of it. So I'll kind of leave that alone, that area alone for right now. Okay. Here we've got a little bit of gray here that I want to kind of smooth out. Alright, and I'm just going for a nice smooth sky, so I just keep adding more oil pastel till I get to that point. I just alternate between these two blues here to get to that point there. Alright. Getting a little better, smoother. I see some gaps here, a few places, so I'm just going to keep adding until those gaps are gone. Seems to be an issue with smoother surfaces is that you can overblend and kind of move the oil pastel off certain areas by just too much pressure down while blending. So I just have to kind of keep going until I am satisfied. All right, I think we're getting close. Blend in a different direction, try to cover those gaps. All right, looking pretty good. Definitely smoother. All right, pretty good. Let's go ahead and keep going with this cream. I'm gonna clean up some of the areas where I see a little gray has been deposited. Just use a crema for that and then just kind of blend that out. Move that around. Right, so we got a nice transition going. So at this stage, I think I'm using neopastels. This is definitely a neopastel, and I believe these two both are. They feel very soft and creamy like a neopastel would. And so definitely helps to have the crayons underneath all this to kind of stack up the colors, help stack the colors up. going. I'm just kind of blending that color into the blue, spreading it out, trying to smooth out the transition as best as I can do it. There are some clouds here in the background according to my reference picture, so that might be a final thing we do here. All right, and I'm pushing it a little bit too much in this area, and it's starting to lift off the oil pastel, so I'm going to just push in a different direction and cover that up. And that's something I'm noticing working on smooth paper, is that kind of thing tends to happen a little bit more easier, where if you do a little bit too much blending, it'll actually remove the oil pastel in that area. All right, not bad. I think it looks pretty good. All right, so let's go down further. Let's see here. Get back to my picture. All right, let's work on this section right here, this rock formation, and we'll move the blues away. And I think I'm done with the crema, so I'm going to put these guys back. Maybe we'll use this brown one here, and then I'm going to go in with some blues. I think we'll try this Prussian blue by Van Gogh. Just kind of bringing out some different values here, and then let's bring out some of these neopastel, some of these cocoa. What's this color? Cocoa. Yeah, I like this one. Here's the same one, just without the paper on it. So I had to get some new sticks at the art store the other day. And I'm going to save those new ones and go down to these, which I've been using. Okay, so let's start working on this section a little bit. And I'm going to take the paper off this Van Gogh. There we go. So this is a Prussian blue by Van Gogh. Okay. And we'll start working in some of the darks a little bit more. So I'm adding the blue on top of this brown, just to give me a little bit of a darker shade. Kind of working in the shadows here. I think I tend to start with the darks, get the darks going, the shadowed parts first, and then we come in with the brown on top of that, and even darken it up even further. All right, and work in that blue. Just kind of go right over the top of that brown with it. Find the shadows and just kind of work in those darks. Then we can use this kind of this khaki tan. This is a neopastel, and that could be sand color. All right, so we'll work in the sand. We'll just kind of put that right in there. It's a good sand color. We'll also use it in the rocks here, but right now we'll just put this here. That all the way to the edge, right up to where it meets the rock. Let's just spread that out. Now this is a crepage brown, but I can use it here along with this blue. The crepage and the Van Goghs are very similar in their hardness, so you can use them interchangeably pretty easily. They're almost the same consistency. Just bring that down. Pick it up to the edge there, cover that edge up. Alright, maybe a little bit more brown over here, make it a little darker. I'm just looking at the shadows here in my reference and just trying to recreate those here. Just kind of work that in, blend that brown and blue together. Easy to do on the smooth surface to blend these sticks together. Alright, we'll get them with the lighter khaki and go over this. We have some light coming that hits this part of the beach. So I'm just going to bring a lighter version of this. Put that in there. And then this part of the sand is in the shaded part, so I'm going to bring some more of this darker. Just kind of go over the blue a little bit to indicate the sand part that's under that shadow of the rock here. So on top of that blue that was there. There we go. And then over here we have a little shadow on the sand. So put a little blue onto it. Then we have another kind of a big rock here. It kind of sticks out. So just finding the darks here. You just keep working it until I'm satisfied, until it's all working together for me. And come in with the lighter right here where the sun hits. So we got that nice shade here. All right, and then we have some rocks here. Right here, there's a bunch of the rocks here on the other side. So I'm gonna get the gray. Let's see, maybe this one works. This is a Mungio Gallery brand new stick. We'll leave the paper on this one. We'll just put some gray in. Might need a darker gray, but we'll just start with this. Kind of scrub that in to help indicate some distant rocks, gravel. It's a Mungio Gallery gray, just called gray. Sometimes when I'm choosing what stick to use, sometimes it's really about just finding the right color and not necessarily the right consistency. So I'm looking for a specific color, and sometimes a different brand will offer it, whereas one brand won't. So we'll start with this. I think I'm going to go with a little bit of a darker gray to help that look a little bit more, a little better. Let's see if I have a darker gray. Maybe this one. This is a neopastel gray, and it might be a little bit darker, maybe not. Nope. Okay, not darker. There we go. This definitely looks darker. This is also a neopastel. Dark gray is what it's called. I think that'll work. Just want a darker gray here. Try to make an indication of some rocks here. Coming down into the water. Okay, put down in the water. Some of that's going to be in the water there. Okay. And let's go back to this brown. We have a rock here that's kind of prominent there, right there. Got some more of these right in this area. Get those dark rocks in there. We got one big one here. It's a little bigger than that. It's more like that. Okay. So start with the darks first. I think it's easier to go that way. Put a little blue into that brown. Now this is a Van Gogh. It's a Van Gogh and a crepage. That's what these are here. Crepage brown, a Van Gogh Prussian blue. Brown and blue together make a nice dark. All right, let's go to this one over here. Do the same kind of situation here with the brown and the blue. there's some rocks here that are sticking out of the water. Right there, and then some more. And there's one that's kind of sticking up right here. We have one that's kind of right there. Another one here. Right, just kind of random places there. Right, and then a little blue on top of that, make it a little darker. And then more brown. And we'll use a finger to try to mix those up into each other. Oh, I broke that. Broke that in half. Alright, and then we have the sand here that's in shade. Alright. Now let's work on the light a little bit. So I'm going to bring a green. There's a green little plant or bush or something right up here on this little edge. Not sure what brand this is. This could be a Mungio or a Van Gogh. It's just kind of a, there's the color of it right there. Kind of a grayish, there's some gray into it. All right, and then it's also, I also see that right up here. Here's where that little lifeguard house will be. But right at the ridge, right at the top of that, there's this kind of this green plant here that's growing on the kind of a ground cover plant of some sort. All right, let's bring in a light. We'll bring in a light here. Kind of just work that into the dark. It kind of comes down. Just trying to find those light areas over here in my painting or my picture, and just kind of find those here. And over here we have an edge here that's receiving light right about right here. It kind of comes down. Receives light all the way down to there, roughly. And then again, right at the top of that little ridge. You just kind of find your lights and kind of bring in right on top of that dark. Sometimes you can take your finger and kind of smear it a little bit, kind of knock it back. Kind of work the values in so they all kind of are the same. And just do little lights here and there. Right, and on the back side of this rock, it is a little lighter. And I might bring a different shade for that, so we'll just keep working this one for right now. Alright, and this rock right here is receiving light right on that edge. Okay, and then a little bit something right there. Alright, and then if you take the finger over, you can really change the value of that light and kind of lessen it a little bit. This is that neopastel, so it's really easy to spread it. Some rocks in there that are getting a little light. And this rock here on the top of that. And then over here, same kind of thing. It's mostly on the top there. Light's coming from kind of the back up in this section. The sun's like back, left, top, so the light's kind of coming down here from the back side of it. All right. Let's take a look at that. Looking pretty good. Let's see over here. We have a little bit. This part's mostly in shade, so not as bright as this section here. All right, I'm going to bring in an ochre. Maybe these are both. This is I think these are both neopastels. It's got a bit of a warmth, these ochres do, so I like to use it for rocks and stuff, but we can bring a little bit of kind of indirect light on this shadow that's happening. A little bit of a warmth to it. Okay. This is a Sen. Just seeing how this one will work. Might want a little bit more pigment into it. It's starting to rub the layers underneath it right off, so I gotta be careful how I apply that. Some darks in the rock, some cracks, texture of the rock. Okay, this is that cocoa. I'm gonna bring some of this on the shaded part as well. Kind of lighten up some of this. There is light in the shaded parts. That's what I'm trying to indicate here with this. Give the rock a little bit more texture. Okay. Then we're going to bring in that lighter khaki. I like to call it khaki pants, kind of. Bring in a lighter mark here, some of these. Right where that light hits that side of the rock here, it really brightens it up. Right on that side there, where the light really is strong. All right, it's starting to really shape up. These kind of keep adding. Now if I bring in a blue, let's see which one of these will work. Let's just see. I'm going to take a little blue and put it on this shaded part here. Okay. Again, just kind of putting some lights in the darks. A little bit of blue there. And then I'm going to come back in with this ochre again. I need a soft ochre because it's trying to scratch back the layers underneath. I just have to kind of work that very carefully. So rock has the variations of color into it. Okay, more of this ochre here. cocoa again. Sometimes it scratches back the color, sometimes it deposits. It's okay. Just kind of go with it, let it kind of do its thing. All right, and if we bring the cream, here, let's put these here. Crema. This is also a good highlight color for like something bright sun hitting something edge of something. You can kind of use it as a nice bright highlight of the sun hitting that part here as well. And it's soft enough so it usually sits right on top of everything else. There we go. Let's take a look. Pretty good. Pretty good. Looking realistic, natural. Yeah, so it's just about finding the lights and the darks. Start with the darks and then come back in with your lights and just kind of work those in. Sometimes you have to rework it just to kind of get what you're looking for. Okay. And bring in some different colors like these ochres I think really helped. Just to kind of bring in a warmth to some of the shaded parts. And you kind of keep going and then step back and take a look, kind of see if it's all working together. All right, let's add a little highlight to the plant area. So I need like a lighter green. If I have something like that, maybe one of these. This is a sen. Maybe there's a little bit of a light on some of these plants up here. Whatever plant this happens to be, just kind of same situation with the light, some areas. Okay. All right, so not bad. Let's go over to this one. Put some light on some of these rocks. Right at the top there. That's really where it is. A little bit down there. And then here we'll use that cocoa to bring some lighter into the dark. All right. And if you need to, you can always go back in with the dark and kind of darken up some areas if you need to do that. Like maybe there's some cracks here coming into the rock that I want to darken. Add a little bit more texture to that. Then you could take a blue, if I need to, and even go over those with some of the blue. I need a softer blue. That's starting to scratch back. I don't really want to scratch it back. should be good to go on this. Kind of keep poking at it. Just adding a little lights here and there. Playing with the light here. All right. Let's move up here. Okay, so we have light, shadow. We have these boulders here in the water, kind of moving down. Right here at the base of this rock, it seems to be a little darker than what I'm indicating here. So I'm going to go over with a little blue right here. Kind of right where the base of that, where it meets the sand, seems to be a little bit darker in that section. And if I take the blue, of course, blue on the brown makes it darker. Ooh. Got a package, I think. I think that's Amazon.
Oh, Moses is gonna come over and greet you. Are you scared of dogs? No. Oh, come on in. You can shut the door. Yeah, he probably will be like, what? You know he's huge too. Oh yeah. Did you see ours?